Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar. My name is Andrew Townsend. I'm the Campaign Marketing Manager here at eLearning Brothers. Today we're going to be talking about how to screen record your way to a quick training solution. This is going to be about the newest additions in Lectora in screen recording. And if you're not a Lectora user, you can still find some uses for screen recording in your e-learning here in today's webinar, so we hope that you find it useful. This session will be recorded, and we will email a copy of the recording out to everybody who is registered, so you can keep an eye out for that. If you have questions during the webinar, we'll be ready to answer your questions in the questions panel, and I'll try to get to as many of those as I can during the webinar. So that's a part of your GoToWebinar control panel there on the side. Feel free to ask as many questions as you need. We'll get to as many of them as we can. All right, so we have a fantastic guest today. We've got Bill Milstid, our senior developer, with us. Thanks, Bill, for your time, and we're excited to hear what you have to share. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass the screen and the time over to you.
Okay, that should work now, hopefully.
Yep, that looks great. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. And a nice loud clap there to add on to everybody's headphones. Okay, so I'm Bill Milstid. Like Andrew said, I'm senior developer here at eLearning Brothers for the template side for eLearning templates. And today we're going to talk about how to use the screen recording tool in Lectora to create super rapid training without having to worry about a ton of development. Now, as I'm saying that, right, you can't see me. You can't see me because I'm having some good difficulty with GoToMeeting, but you will in just a few moments because I'm going to show you how to use the webcam in addition to the screen recording tool that is in here. So I do apologize for not showing my face in a presentation about showing my face, but I'll get to that in just a few minutes here. So apologies for the early kind of trouble at the top of it, but we'll have a good one going here going forward. All right, now, so this webinar, before I really get into the kind of deep end here, it's a little different than most of the webinars, honestly, that I do here at eLearning Brothers. So usually I'm showing off like some super cool templates we've created, like this is one of our new Lectora course starters that we've got coming up, right? Like, and here's another one we've got coming out that's brand new, got Heritage and Aurora here. I usually show this kind of stuff off, right? Like, hey, here's our new designs, here's how we're handling Lectora, you know, programmatically, or I'm talking about kind of cool factor things, like how to do a kind of a high-end, more advanced development, you know, task or some process stuff. But today, you know, I was tasked with showing off something that typically, honestly, flies under the radar an awful lot with training, and then explaining how cool it is. Now that for me, that's kind of a task. Sometimes I'm a bit of a shiny object guy. But when I first started thinking about this webinar, I couldn't initially put my finger on what the cool factor for screen recording was going to be, right? We're all pretty familiar with screen recording tools and webcams, especially, you know, lately, right? Everybody during the current global situation, we're all working on webcams. We're all working remotely. So kind of where's the cool thing about that technology that we already know? And then honestly, it kind of hit me. Well, that is the cool factor. The fact that we're already using these things. Everybody is really lately. Anybody in a knowledge work environment is certainly using these. And that could actually be a really interesting way to look at these tools and figure out kind of what something simple like a webcam recorder or a screen recorder, how to make that actually neat and impactful for e-learning. So I thought about how I used to work, right? Like I used to work in a corporate global office where we had a lot of remote SMEs. We had folks in China, India, Europe, and I was over here in Florida. And we had to get a lot of content from them, and sometimes really rapidly we had to get an entire course off of them just to get something up and handled either in the moment or because ultimately we just didn't have budget or you know, to do a full bore project. So I thought about how we did that then, and well, I figured that's probably still relevant today. I'd imagine that today, you know, getting remote workers to be able to contribute to your training is probably pretty important. And also back in my day, we did a lot of ILT. I'd assume a lot of users are still doing a lot of ILT nowadays, but how do we do that remotely, right? And especially with ILT that might be driven by a SME in some cases. That's kind of a wrinkle for e-learning. Well, luckily, Lectora makes all that pretty easy. So that's kind of the framework of what we're going to be talking about today, or at least how I'm approaching this notion of using a webcam to generate a pretty cool course or an important course or a useful course, right? If you've ever needed a trackable course out of a SME or a non-developer with limited development experience, right? So time, no little time, limited budget. I'm going to look at 2 different ways that you can do that using just a couple little actions and a built-in tool in Lectora today, okay? So today, those 2 things are, we're going to use the screen recording tool. I'm going to show you how to do it to capture both a desktop and a webcam at the same time, and then insert those into Lectora and add quizzing to that. Then the second thing that I'm going to try to show you to do, hopefully we have enough time to get through both, is to just record a webcam using Lectora's built-in screen recorder, same tool, and then sync that webcam to a PowerPoint that we embed in the course and time, okay? That provides a little bit more flexibility than the first option, but they're both pretty similar. So here's an example of the first use case. I'm just going to run this. This was built identically to how I'm going to show you today, but I used a countdown timer just to make it a little easier to see. Got this video here, which again, this was captured off of the screen recording tool, just off of a timer running on my desktop. And I added some actions to it so that at 10 seconds, we pop a quiz question just to review what's been going on in there or wake up our users or whatever it is that we choose. And when you click submit on it, you get some feedback, you press OK, then you close that question out and your video restarts, the presentation picks up and keeps going, okay? So that's what we're gonna work for case 1. And then use case 2, we're gonna work on like this, very similar, kind of a screen captured video up in the top left corner. And when I hit play on that, it's actually gonna drive this PowerPoint that's over on the right-hand side. Every 10 seconds, it's gonna go ahead and move up to a new slide in that presentation to time with whatever it is that's going on in that video. Now, obviously, you can do both of the things I'm going to show you right now with video that didn't come out of the screen recording tool as well, but in our webinar today, we're going to be using that screen recording tool just to show you how simple and easy it is, okay? All right, so that's the whole backgrounding bit, why we're doing it and what I'm going to show you. So now let's go ahead and just walk through it, okay? So I'm going to actually start building this first use case, right? Basically me recording my screen and going through a presentation, and then we're going to dump it on screen all together. So the easy way to get started on that, this is the nice and simple use case, is actually all you got to do is go up to the Insert tab up here in Lectora Online. Also applies to Lectora Desktop, but we're going to go through Online today. Press the video drop down, and you've got a little screen recorder tool tab right there, a little screen recorder button. When you press that, it's going to give you a prompt right here, just letting you know, hey, we're loading the screen recorder. And then the screen recorder will load whenever it's ready in the bottom down here, okay? You're going to get a few different options, right? You can record just your screen. You can record just your webcam, which is me right there waving at you, right? Or you can record a combination of the 2. Now, I'm going to choose that. So that's our first use case. I'm going to go with recording both. You can set your size right here pretty easily. Obviously, you set it to full screen in my case, or if you have a set size that you need to use, you can set that right there in that section. And then choose your narration, whether or not you're running any, which microphone that you're using, and then the same thing with computer audio. Now, I'm not going to capture any system audio because I don't need it, but you have the option to if you need. You also have a couple preferences in that immediate dialog right there for setting shortcuts, things like that, right? But if you don't want to play with any of that, all you really got to do once you get this prompt open is press record. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to actually just launch my slideshow. Okay. Whoop. If I can remember how to do that. Where am I at? Sorry, guys. I got so many things cluttering up my screen right now. It's hard for me to see. There we go. Sorry, guys. Again, I can't barely see anything here. Okay. Well, you know what? It's okay. It'll work just the same. We'll just go ahead and record it since I'm covered up. Okay. So we're gonna hit record now. I'm just gonna walk us through. What's that?
We can see you, even if you can't see yourself.
Well, no, I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all that matters then. So let's just keep going.
Sure.
Okay. So from here, I'm just going to hit record, and we're going to walk through it as though this is an actual presentation. the way that it's supposed to be. All right, so record. Now at the top of this, I'm just going to kind of give us a little something to cut out. You have some editing options. I want to show you that. But after I get through that bit, I'm going to start walking through my presentation. This is slide 1. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Slide 2, maybe I talk a little bit about that, and so on. Really, I'm just capturing a few seconds here so that I can show you a little bit of the editing and we have something to dump into the tool. Once I'm done grabbing whatever it is that I'm going to grab, if an hour-long video or a 30-second video like this, all I got to do is go down to my pause option in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. I can press that and then done. Now, once I press done, I'm going to get this screen recorder dialog here, okay? That is going to give us a couple of options in this pop-up on the bottom right-hand corner. You've got to upload the Lectora online. What that'll do is that'll actually just take your course, or take your video rather, and put it directly into your course just the way you recorded it, okay? You can save it as a video file, and if you do that, it will save it to your machine, right? Just like you'd expect, right? Or you can choose to edit. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, when you edit, once again, you got some more options here to play with. You can adjust your canvas size. You can choose to include narration, add some music. You can hide or show your cursor throughout the presentation. Same thing, you can turn on and off the webcam if that's what you grabbed. In our case, I'm just going to leave it as is, and I'm going to start deleting that first bit of information that or first few seconds of content I had in here where I was yakking and wasting time. Now at the top of this, I'm just going to kind of give us a little something to cut out. You have some editing options. I want to show you that. But after I get through that bit, okay, so I'm going to call that my cut point. Now to get rid of that, all I have to do in this tool is I just go to where I want to start my cut, press cut, drag to what I want to delete, and then press OK. When I do that, I'm going to start walking through my presentation. I've got a nice clean video. As soon as I'm done, super easy like that again, you just press the done button and then upload to Lectora online. Give it a name and press the upload button. Now, it'll take a couple seconds, obviously, depending on your connection speed. Mine tends to lag a little bit here. But as soon as it's uploaded, it's just going to be dumped right into that same page you were working with when you pressed the screen recorder tool. Okay, I'm going to escape here, get out of that, and go back, and you'll see there it is, right? Now I grabbed a pretty big video, so I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit to a more reasonable size, and I'm going to go ahead and just align that to the middle of my page. Okay, now technically, if I wanted to be, I could really be done with a course right now. All I would have to do to get a course up and running that's trackable and works in your LMS is to record my screen, dump it on this slide, wrap it in an assignable unit, and make sure that I've got an exit command in there somewhere on the course. So effectively a free object course, totally doable in about however long it takes to record yourself, reading your material. But let's say, like in the use case one, I had said we're also going to add a question on top of that video just to wake up your users or confirm that they actually got some understanding from it. Maybe I want to use that question itself to set completion of my course. Well, again, I can do that incredibly easy. I don't have to touch this video again once I've brought it in from the screen recorder. All I have to do is insert a test question. You can choose to wrap that in a test or not. You still get to use that variable in a bunch of different ways. I'm not going to get into which way is best for different reasons, but it's up to you. You have the options in Lectora. In this case, I'm just going to dump just a question in there to show you. And really all I have to do is open up the editor, change my content, right? And adjust my feedback behavior as I see fit. Adjust my attempts and press OK. Lectora is going to generate that question and dump it right on screen. Your next step is to style that, right? So that is also nice and easy to do in Lectora. I'm not going to go over a ton of this because it's not really about that, but you can use your drop-down styling options in your in your home tab up there or on the style tab. Same thing here. Just grab a text style. And you're good to go. But the problem is that, if you want this to pop up like I had in the last example, whoops, you gotta do some extra stuff. You don't necessarily need it to pop up. If you wanted to, you could always provide this question down below your video, right, wherever you saw fit, and provide feedback to happen immediately. But I don't like that option. I actually want it to pop up over top of my question, and I want it to pause my question and force the user to stop watching while they answer. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build a little cover layer, and then I'm going to add 1 or 2 quick little actions to make all this come together. Okay. So I'm just going to add a very fast little shape right here to cover up my video, a little video blocker. I'm going to also add a close option so that I have something to kind of grab onto and close this question when I'm all done. Now I'm just going to use this diamond shape right now for trying to move through real quick. I'm not worried about design, just needs to be something there. Okay. And I also want to add a separate submit button. I'm going to do it this way instead of generating it through the question itself, because I want to run a few more actions than just the single feedback action that's given to me through the question editor here. So I'm going to put that in manually. So put in a little manual shape here. We're just going to call this submit, and we're going to style it. Oops, sorry. Text style, play fire subtitle, and give it a white color. Submit. Okay. Same time, I'm going to go ahead and group up these video blockers. Group. All right. And I'm going to set each of these to be initially hidden. That way they're not on top of my video when I'm playing. Now, same thing for the question. I'm going to set that property to be initially hidden as well. Okay. Now, when you do that, when you set it up where we've gotten to so far, nothing's really going to happen. Technically, you've just got this video going. I'm going to start walking through my presentation. Take a bit about that video. And on top of it, you've got a couple of hidden objects. Well, if those stay hidden, they're not going to do anything for you. They're not going to be able to, get the user to answer the question. So we have to add a quick and easy action to the timeline of our video to make that all work. Okay. Now, this is one of the really cool features of Lectora. It's one of the reasons I kind of got into really being stoked on doing this webinar. Is it gives me an opportunity to flex out a little bit and show you some things that don't get featured a lot. Lectora allows you to sync events to the video timeline of a video, right? With just a few quick and easy buttons. I'm going to show you how to do that right now, but this is hugely, hugely impactful if you have a lot of video in your course and you want to time actions, behaviors, messages, direction in the course to that video. Lectora makes that very simple. You just press add an event, give it a time. We're going to say at 5 seconds. And what I want it to do is I actually want it to show a couple of the things that I've got hidden. First thing I want it to show is my blocker, because that's my background. Next, I want to add a show action to show the question, okay? And then last, I want to add a pause action here so we'll just say pause directly and make that cleaner. We're going to pause presentation 1. So what that shows us that's going to happen is that we're going to pause our video, show our question, and show our blocker, okay? Then we're going to add one last little effect here, or one last little action here. We're just going to add an action to this close button to hide. Actually, we're going to add a second action too. But we're going to hide this blocker group, and we're going to play presentation 1 at the same time. Okay. So let's preview that and see if I walked through it properly. Sometimes I have some mistakes in there. I got to figure. I'm going to start walking through my presentation. This is slide 1. I'm going to talk a little bit about, oh, there we go. Now we've got a question about slide 1. All right, I can choose it, press submit, and get my feedback. Oh, but I can't get my feedback. Now, why is that? Well, that is because I didn't add that action to my rectangle there. Nice and easy. All I got to do is say action, and then that would be submit process question 235, and we should be good to go now. So let's hit play again and watch. I'm going to start walking through my presentation. This is slide 1. I'm going to talk a little bit about. All right, so now we've got our video popping. Press submit. We should get some feedback there, unless I goofed, which I think I did. Slide 2, maybe I talk a little bit about that. All right. And there we go. So let's go ahead and double check this question again, just to make sure everything's going on nicely in it. Hold on one second. We're going to hit edit question. This one is true. Feedback. Ah, that's what I goofed. I didn't enable feedback. So once we process that question, now we're going to enable feedback, and we should be good to go. Sometimes it's just a little double. I'm going to start walking through my presentation. This is slide 1. I'm going to talk a little bit about. All right. And there we go. We've got our feedback. We close the question out, and we restart, right? Okay, good to go. Now, there's probably a couple of little extra things we could do in here. If we wanted to, we could add some additional triggers, right? So probably should go ahead and hide that question just to make sure that it's, a little cleaner. We could probably go in here and, obviously clean up our style a little bit more. What I'm showing you here is very rapid, and I'm not making a lot of kind of clean design edits, mostly because I want to try to push through and show you the other example as well. I think you get the idea though, right? So within about maybe 10 minutes there, we introduced the screen recording tool. I talked a fair bit about it. We recorded a bit of content there, inserted it onto our slide, added a quick blocker and a quick question. And we've got, just in that little bit, technically something that could fulfill a course, including a quizzing option. Again, like I was saying, the only real complexity to that process was actually adding the blocker and the quiz question, where and that's where I ran into some needs for testing. If I didn't have the need to put that in there, though, we'd be good to go with just inserting that video, right? So to me, that's a pretty compelling. I got an ILT that I got to get ripped out. I got a SME who's remote. They don't really know how to use my tool. Let's put them on Lectora online, right? It's a kind of, you can get a shared developer account for that. Let's get them recording their screen camera, or let's get them recording their screen. Let's get them recording their web camera, and let's get them ripping out this content. Then as a developer, all I have to do is dump that into a signable unit, put my exit button on it, and I'm really good to go. Now, the second option I'm going to show you as well. There are less actions for me to step through on there, so there's probably a little cleaner to look. Just a reminder, it's a pretty simple recording that I've got here, and a web window showing a PowerPoint presentation. Process is very, very, very similar, really, between the two. If I wanted to insert, a screen recording here, no problem. Do the exact same type of thing we did before. We load our screen recorder, and then I would just select to use just the webcam in this particular case. So I'll show you that. Right, I've just selected the webcam. The process is going to be identical. I press record, wait for my countdown, and then I start talking. Again, I'll give you guys another 5-10 seconds here of recording so that we can have something to sync some events to. But the webcam portion of this is probably the easiest of everything. That's what makes this a really nice tool. Okay, so I paused that. I'm going to go ahead and hit done and go back. This time I'm not going to edit because I feel like I was clean enough to show you what we need to do there. I'm just going to directly upload that to Lectora Online. I'll press upload, and it'll be there in just a second. And if this starts lagging a little bit, we might just, that's my connection. I'll just knock that off, and we'll use an existing video I have in the file just so you can get a feel for the idea here. which I might go ahead and do that. I have a feeling it's not liking me trying to do all this connection stuff right now. So I apologize for that. That's my connection being a bit of a pain, but no problem. We should have, I'm just going to insert something from my media library here that I use. That being said, that is something you can do in Lectora Online. You get a shared media library. We tend to save things that we use repeatedly over and over in there. This is a 60-minute timer I was showing you earlier. I'm going to insert that for this case. All right. So let's pretend that this was my connection letting me upload a webcam here. We'd come over exactly like this, and then all I would need to do is grab this puppy to resize it as I see fit. Okay. So great. I've got a webcam on my screen, but this use case is for me to show it syncing to some PowerPoint. Well, in order to do that, again, Lectora, easy peasy. All you got to do is actually import a PowerPoint directly into the course. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to hit File, Browse here, and I'm going to grab my presentation counter and press OK. Next, I'm going to press Import, and when that loads, you're going to get some options. Now, in my case, I'm going to load a custom size here that is 960 by 540 because that should match the dimensions of my widescreen format presentation. And I'm going to press OK. And what you'll see when this finishes importing is you're going to see a new chapter that gets created at the back half of the course, or not the back half, the last chapter of the course will be a new chapter. It's called presentation, or called PowerPoint rather. It's the PowerPoint I just imported. And if you go through and you look at the individual slides, that's them. Now, the set Lectora size is a little different than the presentation I just had was. So I'm actually going to change the page size on this chapter to be 960 by 540 so that it matches my presentation. And in this Lectora document, I have some inherited title level objects. So I'm actually going to turn all of those off on this so that all I'm left with is my presentation and it matches the original dimensions and size of my other presentation. So I'm going to go back to my time slides here, and all I got to do is I have to insert a web window. And then I got to tell that web window to reach down to this PowerPoint presentation, and I press OK. Now, I'm going to resize this too big for just a second, just to get it in dimension, 960 by 540. And then once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and resize that to fit my screen proportionally. So there we go. So now I've got a video on screen and I've got a PowerPoint. And that's great. If I hit play on my video, it's going to play my video. This particular video is an hour. So it's going to play an hour of a video. But my PowerPoint presentation isn't going to do anything. So great. Why am I showing this? Well, let's think back to that sync actions event that we had in there previously. And we're going to go over to the properties pane on this video again, and we're going to click sync events. Then we're going to add an event. We're going to add a couple. We're going to add 3. Every 10 seconds. So at 0 seconds, we're going to perform an action. 10 seconds and 20 seconds, we're going to perform an action. Those actions are all going to be the same. We're going to do a go to. And that page that we're going to go to is going to be a page in our PowerPoint presentation that we just brought in, right? So at 0 seconds, I'm going to go to presentation marker 1, top of the page, existing window. And then similarly, at 10 seconds, I'm going to go to presentation marker number 2, top of the page, existing window. Except for that's not true. I want to set that to my web window. And so we're going to go to a page, pick my presentation marker number 3, top of page, web window, and press OK. Now that I've added those events or those actions to this timeline, what should happen if I press run here is I should have a presentation that every 10 seconds will flip to show the next presentation slide that we've got. And there we go. So we're on presentation marker number 2. And we're on presentation marker number 3. Kind of a cool thing, if you have this kind of thing that you do repeatedly, one interesting thing about Lectora, or not interesting, but great, convenient, lovely thing that you can do about Lectora is once you've assigned events to the timeline of a video, you can also change what that video happens to be. In this case, I just changed it down to my PowerPoint and webcam test from a while back. But those actions will stay. So no matter if I'm using the video from today, or if I'm using the video from a month ago, those actions retain. Again, sync events, always working. Discard my changes, and if I go back to view and run it again, you can see that basically I'm going to talk about this content, and then I'm going to move on to the second slide if that's what I choose to do. Obviously, this should be a presentation. Well, I probably should. Third, fourth. There we go. So even easier in that particular option, grab a webcam recording from the screen recording tool, dump it in the stage, add a presentation you've already got built with a couple of quick little actions. You can cycle through that and time it to your video. And once again, as long as you've got that wrapped up in an assignable unit, you've got your exit tab in there, you got a course that's good to go. And we stood up both of those roughly, right? Inside of 35 minutes with a bunch of explanation. The actual, and with me getting a little nervous on webcam and missing my my steps through some of that process. So still remarkably fast. And something I think you could very easily apply in a number of scenarios, especially if you've got remote SMEs or you've got a bunch of ILT that you need to stand up without a lot of time and without a lot of budget. Yeah, so frankly and honestly, that's the majority. Those are the two use cases I really wanted to show today, just to show how easy it was to open up and run that tool and how easy it was to get those recordings into a course and actually do something that will get you tracking and training rapidly. So that was it. We moved through it actually quicker than I was expecting. I'll take a few minutes now and see if we have some questions or if there's anything else that Andrew would like me to cover.
The majority of our audience is Lectora users.
Great.
And you demonstrated screen recording using the Lectora built-in screen recorder. But if I'm a Storyline or Captivate or Domino, using another tool, are the principles somewhat the same? Even if I'm using a screen recorder like Camtasia, a lot of Lectora users were using Camtasia before. Are a lot of the principles still the same?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? So in terms of, the second use case that I popped up there of, hey, here's just a webcam recording and here's a PowerPoint, and we're going to sync those two things together. That's one of those things that Lectora makes super easy. So that's a bit of an outlier for some of the other tools, especially depending on what development level you're at, right? But certainly the first use case where I'm talking about, hey, just use a webcam, drop it on the stage, right? Capture what you need, drop it into your course, pop some questions over it, and wrap it up in a SCORM package. That principle, right? Of here it's a quick and easy way to get your stuff, up and going for especially nowadays. That's applicable to really all the tools in a very similar manner. Storyline would allow you to do this, and I believe they have offerings that are comparable. Captivate, you can certainly do this as well in Captivate, and then Camtasia. I know probably a very similar process, but I'm not a huge Camtasia. I'm not a huge Camtasia developer. I think actually, Andrew, you might have better input on quizzing in that tool than I do. But.
Yeah, if you're using, I know Camtasia is also TechSmith's working on making it a full authoring tool, not just a video editor and screen recorder. But if you're going to be pulling video into screen recorded video into Lectora, Storyline, or Captivate. We did do a series of webinars on that. I don't know, what was it, like a year and a half ago? And all of that information, I believe, is still accurate. Mainly, the main differences, and the reason we did this webinar instead of just pointing people back to the other one, is because the built-in screen recorder does make it so much faster
really does.
in Lectora.
Yeah, it really does, especially when you combine it with the out-of-the-box options that Lectora gives you that the other tools don't, right? And so that's kind of why I was focusing on this sync events piece, which I know I kind of moved through some of this really rapidly. I wanted to get both in there, but also I wanted to show you how fast and easy this is to do. I think I tripped myself up a little bit on the first use case because I was trying to move a little too quick, but while the principles are the same, a lot of the kind of nifty factor, right, and the ease factor, I think Lectora has the leg up, frankly. But the approach would be, yeah, quite similar across the tools.
Sure. Yeah. I also want to point out, so I'm working. I did a lot of Camtasia stuff. You guys probably might know of that, but I've worked with Camtasia for a long time, and now I'm kind of moving my expertise over toward scenario VR, and it's kind of cool to see different ideas of how you could use this kind of screen recording training inside of a VR environment. You know, if you're training someone on a location, and then you can train them how to use a computer or a software or a different workstation using the screen recording. It's really, really cool. The possibilities are pretty wide, but got to think creatively. I think that might be another challenge that we're running into. You know, thanks 2020 for forcing us to start to think creatively, but being creative in your use is what's going to make it really good.
Yeah, and I don't want to, you know, keep tacking this on, but you know, just from I wanted to focus on something that would be approachable from any budget level as well. Because you're right? Like we're in a position now where we have to figure out how to use, especially something like a screen recorder, which just prior to now, I had not considered that to be a hugely important tool in my arsenal for rapid development, but it increasingly is becoming so, right? But I wanted to highlight stuff that folks with no budget could do. Because one of the challenges I'm seeing is that a lot of the more creative stuff also sometimes necessitates a little more budget that folks don't have. That, you know, your creativity and your budget can go a very long way with very simple tools to making something very impactful as well.
Awesome. We don't have any other questions, so I'm just gonna grab the screen back from you for a minute, Bill.
Great.
For those of you who are not using Lectora, you can try Lectora for free for 30 days with a free trial. You can learn more about that at elearningbrothers.com. You'll also see on the screen there Lectora Plus, Asset Library Plus, Scenario VR. We have a platinum package that it's incredible. I mean, once the acquisition of Trivantis was made by eLearning Brothers, one of the first things we did was say, these are awesome tools and they're only going to get better. Let's make sure that they're accessible to everybody. So this is an awesome package to mix all together, and you can try all of it for 30 days, all of them mixed together if you'd like, and see how they work together and see if it's going to meet your needs. So like I said, you can try that at elearningbrothers.com. If you have any questions for anybody, the developers or our designers or anybody like that, please send your questions to info@elearningbrothers.com, and we're happy to reach out and answer your questions about tools, about screen recorder, about quality design, anything like that. And if you have more questions about purchasing Lectora, purchasing the Platinum Suite and other things, please give us a call at 801-796-2767. Thanks, Bill. This has been super helpful, very handy, and thanks everybody for joining us, and we hope that you'll join us with future webinars. Thank you.